Okay.
I'm proud of what I've done. I'm proud of making moonshine because I've always tried to make good moonshine. I never did try to make old rot gut and try to sell it off on nobody. Every time I've ever run a run, I drank it myself to make sure that it's what it's supposed to be. And I've listened to old moonshiners. I've learned from the best, and I just try to do it the way it's supposed to be done to come out with a good quality. Yeah, if the sheriff, everybody, I wouldn't say it was being favored, but a lot of times you'd see the sheriff down there on the street, you'd fold $100 bill that they had, walk up and shake hands with him, leave that 100 with him, tell him say carry your wife and kids out and eat tonight or something, And when election time come around, if he was a pretty good sheriff and stuff, donate $300 or $400, $500 to his election, and and then he'd let you know. It wasn't like we was common ass criminals. We wasn't hurting nobody, but we respected them and they respected us, kind of, I guess how you put it.
I see.
But yeah, they some that the sheriff wouldn't like, and they wouldn't tell them for nothing.
What kind of quality of a moonshiner would the sheriff not like? Are there some types of people that would earn a bad reputation for themselves?
Roughnecks that was always stealing or tearing something up for somebody's and making bad moonshine that with no count. Now he'd bust their ass. But as long as you was doing a good job and you wasn't bothering nobody and you was doing what you're supposed to do, very seldom it ever come your way.
Yeah.
And if they did, a lot of times they'd tell you. If somebody turned you in, they'd have to check it out. And they'd just send word to you that they was gonna come in so-and-so day, not be around. You just wouldn't be there. One got caught or something, in the woods, it would spread. The rumor would spread. They caught a steal at so-and-so place. Or if they came in and caught you at it, the rumor would spread. And used to, if the revenuers come in and caught you, it was a federal offense. And everybody around here, they sent to Montgomery, Alabama for 11 months and 29 days.
They all went to Montgomery?
Yeah, that was your sentence. And if the sheriff and them caught somebody, they might go down there and spend 2 or 3 months down there in the county jail. But now if the revenuers caught you, you'd go to Montgomery, Alabama to the federal penitentiary.
Harbor Great Whiskey High School.
Which side of the words did it be on, bro?
2018. This side over
Towards
here.
the wall? Perfect. A little bit.
On this side.
I'll slide mine back.
And all the old Bibles, they had feast and something just every so many days, and some of them went on for a month, some of them for a week, and that's all they done was just drink and party. And you read it, you'll see it in there. You'll see that they just God wanted them to be happy, and he had a special feast every month or something, or every time the moon changed, and maybe not that often, but quite a bit.
Yeah.
I always drank my own whiskey. A lot of whiskey makers that I know, they never would keep their own whiskey. They said, hell, we ain't making this to drink, we're making this to sell, we'll buy somebody else's whiskey.
Where your moonshine coming from, I really trust the guy that give it to you, you better leave it alone.
Right.
Go to kill you.
Yeah.
Sure will. Mess you up.
The the way I always done mine anyway. Used to, when we was making, we'd go to the woods, and when we got done making, we'd grab them jugs up, bring them out, put them in the car. We'd carry them to a bootlegger somewhere we didn't hold on to. And they was old man, and I felt like he was screwing me. I knowed he was, but I couldn't really argue with him. Every now and then he'd tell me, say, last whiskey you brought me, I had 2 jugs of weak whiskey. Well, doing it that way, you didn't really know. You could have had a couple jugs. And so I got where I built me a container. I'd pour all my whiskey in that container, about 15, 16 gallons. I'd stir it all up. I'd keep me a jug of real high that came off first, and then I'd keep me a jug of the last, where if it was too high, I could cut it down. I'd stir that up, pour some high in it or pour some weak, whatever I need to do. And then I'd stir that up. I'd get my beads like I wanted it and my taste like I wanted it. Then I kept it stirred up and I'd drain it out in gallon jugs. And I carried him some. I knowed it was about time for him to hit me. He said, hey, I got a couple of jugs of whiskey from you last time that was weak. And I'd always bring him a couple more gallons. I told him, I said, like hell you did. And he was counting the money out to me. I told him, I said, every jug of whiskey I bring you's the same. I got a container I mix it up in. I said, I mix it all together, get it like I want it, I drain it out. He was sitting there counting that money. He got done counting that money, he looked up at me and said, I guess that'll work, won't it? And I said, it sure does. And he never told me he had another jug of weak whiskey.
Could you talk more about that type of mindset of thinking that the law should keep people from making moonshine or buying moonshine?
Well, you know, I really don't know what to say about that, except back just what we was just saying. You know, Jesus' first miracle was turning water into wine, and you know, seemed like it's all the way through history. Then I guess America wanted to make it against the law sometime in the 20s or 30s or somewhere right in there. You know, something that's been from the beginning and all that. I mean, like I say, the Bible is about as far back as I know of any history that I really believe is true. You know, it talks about, you know, making wine, you know, years ago.
And I know some boys one time, they sold this old man some whiskey out in Lebanon, and he was real skittish. They pulled in there with 50 gallon, and they had 5 gallon right in the back of the trunk of the car. And he got it out. One of them said, what's that? Like he heard something. He said, let's get this whiskey unloaded and y'all get out of here. They unloaded it. They had 45 gallon of water in there in jugs. The back 5 had whiskey in it. Well, he never would buy it. They never did try to carry him no more. And I started selling to him a little while after that. They told me what they done. And I'd carry it down there and he'd want to shake every jug and smell it, make sure it's whiskey. He done that for a year and a half. And then he finally got to trusting me. He'd get one jug, smell of it, give him a little drink. We'd unload it. He knowed he could trust me,
It seems like every day, I don't care how long you've been making moonshine, it's something different will show up that you memorize. So why did I do a stupid thing like that, you know? And if it's something, every day, everybody make a mistake, you know? And you will make a mistake making moonshine too. You're the best and it is, you're gonna make a mistake.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, that's the way it is.
At the same place, he had his half brother was helping us. Well, he was there was 3 of us, and he was there too. And I remember he had Sunday shoes, and he never wore no socks, and he's a little bit heavy anyway. But where he'd wore these shoes so long, I mean, when you make whiskey out on the ground or something, it gets muddy all around because you're dipping beer and spilling a little bit here and there. You got your condenser running, you got water. We was toting water in 5 gallon buckets from the pond or from a place down there where they logged this, where they went across a little drain, had water in where the skidder had done it, and that's where we was getting the water from. But I remember I was hauling water this day. I had 2 5-gallon buckets, and my britches leg was froze like stovepipes where I'd spilt that water on me, going back and forth, and it was so cold they was froze still. And I was walking, you hear me walking through where my britch leg was froze. But anyway, we got up there, done run one run or two, getting ready to change another one. So we knocked the cap off, and that beer just in there boiling. I mean, just boiling like crazy. And we usually put 1 5-gallon bucket of water out of the where we was getting it down there, out of the swamp, really. And it sort of just makes it turn a flip in there and cools it somewhat, but not very much. But you know, we was taking like a 2-gallon metal pail and dipping it, because the pot hole is just so big we couldn't get a 5-gallon bucket in there. We had like a 2-gallon bucket where we dipped that out, and we just handed it to each other and poured. Whoever was close to the barrel poured it in the barrel. And so he was standing middle ways, and I was dipping this hot beer out of the pot. And there he stood with this big old, these like Sunday shoes, and we was out there in the middle of the woods, but they was where he'd wore them so much, they was just opened up like I just really opened up around his foot. But anyway, I reached in there and got 2 gallons of hot beer. I'm talking about boiling hot. I hand it to him. Well, he misses it. He hits the bucket with his hand, and it just dumps that beer right in his shoe and just scalds his foot. Just, I mean, like skin and all. You know, just scalds it really, really bad, and he's hollering. It was so funny. He was holding his foot up, bouncing around on his other foot, holding his foot that it just got burnt completely up, you know, from that hot beer. But
I bet it warmed him up a little bit.
yeah, you know, it got him moving around. It was cold. He was always standing around the thing to stay warm.
So there are a myriad of ways that you can calibrate your still, how many times you distill your fermented mash, how you choose to make heads and tails cuts, and what you determine to be keepable spirit. And ultimately, it's what you like going into bottles or barrels that determines where you make your cuts. I've explained the stripping run. Basically, we load the still with fermented mash, grains and all, into the still. We take the bulk of the alcohol out, send the spent grains and water to livestock. After we complete 6 strips, we'll have roughly 240 gallons at 90 proof that we put back in the still for a true second distillation. We'll run the still at a much slower pace, and we're trying to concentrate the most foul tasting or negative flavored spirits to pull off at the top and collect them in one of the side bays of our receiving bay. That's generally referred to as the heads. Has the lower boiling point alcohols like acetaldehyde, ethyl acetate, methanol, these types of things that not only are they not good for you to drink, but they also don't taste very well. So we'll determine that cut by smell and taste, and once it's something we want to put in bottles or barrels, we'll switch over to collect the good stuff, which is the hearts. The spirits coming out of the still are cascading over our hydrometer flask. We are collecting the heads in one of our smaller side bays, one of the 25-gallon bays. So you can see the collection here. We're probably at 2.5 gallons. It's generally a good stage to give the heads a taste and see where we're at. So, nail polish remover. You know, bitter. I don't know. So much for the glory of whiskey. Hardest part of the job. Much better nose. It's really cleaned up. That nail polish remover, acetone, grapefruity smells faded quite a bit. It's coming to more of a light sweet grain, sweet corn smell. end of the head's cut, we bump the steam, so our proof quickly falls to that 160. Well, what we have here is a portion of our hearts collection on this bourbon run. You see it's right at 160 proof. And smells pleasant grain, maybe like grass, sweet, candy almost. Very nice, very pleasant. Always going to be hot at this proof, at 160. But you can just tell the complexity of the grain, the sweetness. We're off to a good start with this one.
Well, you just have to deal with them. They have to show you that they're true blue. I mean, you know, you get to dealing with a man in a month and a half's time, you can tell if he's where he's supposed to be.
Yeah.
I mean, I had one old gentleman up here in White County that I dealt with for years, and he was as good as gold. He'd sell 35, 40 gallons nearly every week, and I made some one time and put it, me and another buddy of mine, we went to Jack Daniels, and we had 2 pickup trucks that had steel cattle racks on them. If we put every damn barrel we could stack on it, tie on, and come back on them 2 trucks. And I got them, carried them up at my house, and I washed them out, let them dry, and got all that old charcoal out. Well, we had the big outfit that was making so much. We carried them to a buddy of mine's place that had bulldozer piles. We cut places out, put them barrels in there, and left room for them to roll, where we could roll.
Bulldozer piles?
Huh?
Bulldozer piles?
Yeah, like pushing trees down and stuff.
I see.
And he cleaned up a 300-acre farm. Lord, he had them everywhere back there. And that winter, after it started getting real cold and it wasn't working like it ought to, I told my buddy, I said, let's quit for the winter. And he said, what are we going to do? And I said, we're going to empty them barrels out. Well, we hadn't even went over there. We just go over and roll them a little. But it got enough of that them maple chips, hickory chips, that it left enough coloring in that wood that it got in that moonshine. It had the prettiest amber color to it you ever seen, just like charred whiskey. Well, hell, that old man was buying 35 gallons a week. He got to buying 75 gallons. I went up there one day and I told him, I said, Pap, it's going to come to the end now. Oh, yeah, I know it. He just kept right on going. I carried him about 3 or 4 more loads, and I went up there. I said, this is all of it. He said, oh, hell, you've earned me. I said, I ain't earned you. I told you it's going to come to an end. He said, I'm selling this to state troopers. Part of it's going down there at Nashville. He called it the big house. He said, it's going down there. He said, lawyers, DAs, everybody's buying me. And I said, well, that when you get this sold, this will be the last of it. And he said, well, I ain't even saved me none to drink. And he'd been good. There'd been a time or two when I just blowing money and mine get tore up and I wouldn't have money to set back up. And there'd been a time or two when he would give me money to buy another outfit and set up. And of course, I was always good to him too. But I told him, I said, I've got a 10-gallon keg of my own. I said, I'll bring it up here and let you have it to drink on. And I did. He said, I'll call you when to come get it. He called me, and it was a couple weeks after that before I went and got it. He had grandkids that was meaner than any junkyard dog you ever seen. And we sat there on the porch and talked for a while. We went out there to his old barn, and he had that keg in the corn crib. We opened that crib door, and there sat an axe and a hatchet. Them kids had chopped my keg all to hell. It looked like toothpicks. Oh, I wanted to cry. And And he said, you buy you another keg. I said, I'll pay for it. And he said, I'm gonna kill them grand youngins. I said, hell, if they was here right now, I'd kill them. But, you know, he's been real good to me, so I had to be good back to him.
Well, he one of them damn guys that I don't know. I really don't know. His daddy was a good moonshiner, and his brothers were good moonshiner, and why he got in with the TBI men's, I don't know. I really don't know. But he made people hate him over it, you know. And because he was raised on it. And when you raised on something, and your daddy did it, your brother did it, why in the hell would you want to catch somebody? I mean, why would you want to set somebody up to catch him? You know, it don't make sense to me. I never did know. I still don't know. He dead now.
Sorry, I didn't mean
I got one uncle still living. He 84 years old. And that was his brother that did it. He wasn't even older. He wasn't that old. But people would set you up for money, I guess, maybe.
I do know about illegal whiskey in Cannon County, like I said, through buying the raw products to make it. Where they buy actually corn. They would buy corn, and we'd have to grind it on, use a real fine screen so it would be really fine ground. And they would buy corn and sugar from my grandfather from the feed mill. I was born and raised here, and my grandfather, who passed away in 1980, until he died, he run a feed and seed farm supply company, and we did a lot of business with the local farmers and all. But as a boy, 12, 14 years old, I was working at that feed store, and I knew every moonshiner in the county, and the way I knew them, they all bought their sugar from my granddaddy. And he would get a load of sugar in 100-pound bags. And of course, some people bought it to do canning and make jam and all that, but most people that bought 100 pounds of sugar were making liquor. So at that time, I knew every moonshiner in the county because I knew who bought the sugar. Moonshine was a way of life, a living.
They could live it like they could live.
Hey, moonshine wasn't just for getting drunk. Yeah. I mean, hey, they used it for cough syrup, they used it for cooking, they used it for...
You know what Cap Young said? You know, he bootlegged it all my life when he died. But he said he should made the sale, not the drink.
Now, see, he went and borrowed, I think it was him that borrowed, he borrowed $650 note from Dr. Adams, and right after he borrowed the money, he got caught. And Dr. Adams, before he went off to jail, he said, how you ever gonna pay that money back? He said, ain't gonna be no big thing. He said, people just thought it made liquor before, now they know it. He said, business be better than ever.
So you didn't talk about it?
No, because I wasn't afraid of the moonshiners. They wasn't going to bother me. I was afraid of my grandfather. He told me, you know, it's none of our business what they do with it, and if they buy sugar from us, that's okay. It's their business what they do with it, and you know, if word had got out that we were talking about who was buying sugar, then they would quit doing business with him. So that's the reason I never talked. I'm the county executive. I'm in my 4th term. I'm about to retire. I've been elected 4 times. I was on the commission for 17 years. I was road commissioner for 6 years, and I think one reason I've been able to win 11 elections is because I grew up in my grandfather's feed mill, where we sold feed, fertilizer, all kind of farm products. So, and everybody knew me from that feed store. So I think that helped me in when I decided to get into politics. But there's not, as far as I know, nobody makes it anymore except the legal distillery. Now I think a bunch of them are making legal moonshine. As far as I know, nobody makes it illegal here anymore. There's just not enough profit in it, as far as I know.
Life changed a lot what it used to be.
It seems like the supply of real illegal moonshine is no longer in high demand. It seems to be dying out practically. But there's a phenomenon of people visiting the Short Mountain Distillery for its tours to reconnect with a part of their heritage.
Someone else would interject almost angrily at me and say, do you know, if it wasn't for my grandpappy making moonshine, I wouldn't have had shoes. You know, that's how important it was for people.
Moonshine!
Year, $25, they lost his house and farm.
$25.
No, they.
$25 was the charge for...
No, this guy lost his farm and his house because he couldn't come up with $25 to pay for it that year. That's illegal, but that's the way it was back then.
About 80, 85, they keep that beer warm, see, where that it will work. It will not work if it gets on 80 degrees. It ain't gonna do a lot of working. If it's more than that, if it sit there and simmer, and then take for 10 days for it to work on. So you got to keep it around 80 to 85 temperature, and ain't never no better than a water bed heater for that. And you wrap it from the outside.
So it keeps warm.
And that heat will go through there and keep that warm. That's the simplest way to do it.
Yeah.
Yep. I don't care if you ain't making but a 25 gallon or 10 gallon. You're still gonna have to put some kind of wrap around it to keep it warm. Some kind of insulation around it to warm it up, keep it warm. When it get cold, it's gonna quit working. Then you're gonna work itself into a picker. So you got to keep it about 85 degrees.
Moonshine's not made to be made in quantities. It's not a production type liquor. It's not a production type thing. Good moonshine is it's like building furniture. You know, you can buy something from IKEA, but it ain't Dominic Byrne, it ain't Henry Hoover.
And I ain't for sure what I'm gonna do yet either. I may keep on too, I don't know. But whatever happened, happened. I'm getting, like I say, I already 70 years old, and I know my people would about to see me give it up and quit, but I ain't ready to give it up and quit yet, you know. But maybe I will someday down the road, you know. Somebody asked me, he said, you ain't gonna run your little great grandson how to make moonshine, are you? And I said, no, sir. I will not run him how to make moonshine. And I ain't even want my two sons how to make moonshine. Did they learn how to do it? I mean, you know, that's all right, because I did it. I ain't gonna say they done wrong, but I really ain't gonna be the one to teach them how to do it.
A lot of times you'd have a sheriff in your county. He didn't go along with it at all. I mean, he'd try his best to get you. But very seldom that happened. Most time, if they came in and got elected sheriff and they was like that, they didn't stay but one term, and the next term they'd get beat, you know.
Because they were just mean. Because they were mean.
Well, yeah, because they just felt like, you know, they was supposed to be over everybody and they could treat anybody like they wanted to. And everybody get tired of it, you know.
You could take a plant out here of something nobody's tried and try to get high on it or do whatever, or I'm sure you could abuse it, you know, or kill yourself on it as far as that if you've done enough of it and all that. But it's like my friend Burley that helped me all this time. I asked to borrow his mules to go up here at Billy's to the event, you know, and he told me, he said, I don't want my mules around alcohol and drugs and all that. I said, well, I hope I'm around when you break your leg and I carry you to the doctor. I'm going to go in there and tell him, say, now look, he's broke his leg. We need to have it set, but don't give him no drugs. I bought a stick for him to bite on, and so I want to help you set his leg. So, you know, that's just an example of older people against drugs and all that. But, you know, like I say, when you explain it to them in a different way, you know, they get a little bit different idea or something, you know, and like the alcohol and all that. And he's you know, he studies the Bible pretty much every day and believes in it. And I asked him, I said, well, what was Jesus' first miracle, you know? And he said, I don't know if he told me if it was or not, but in the Bible it's turning water into wine where they can get drunk and party at a wedding. But, you know, like I say, whenever he does it, you know, people should look at that for what it was, you know. I mean, I'm sure you can get drunk and, you know, go down here and disturb your neighbor and all that, and it's a bad thing. But if you just want to drink and do your own thing or whatever, you know, to me, there's nothing wrong with it.
This is our grain bin. Holds 2,000 bushels, although we never get that many at one time because it'd take us too long to use that much on our scale. It's going to hold bulk commodity. For us, usually that's corn. With bourbon and Tennessee whiskey having to be at least 51%. It's the one that makes the most sense for us to put in the grain bin. So it's got the outer door, and the inner door actually opens towards the inside. So when you put grain in it, you can't just open the outer door and it fall on you. So this is where we keep our corn. And we have an auger that we feed out to our drain cleaner out the back. We try to buy corn locally. A lot of times it's got a little husk and cob in it, so we try to keep that out of the cooks as much as we can. Grinding grains, specifically corn, through our stone burr mill. Grind it into a fine grit flour mix. As it's being ground into this stationary hopper, we're going to feed it into our cooker with this auger. So we got a little downspout, we hook up to it.
So why would you want anybody to quit? I wouldn't quit. I mean, somebody gonna make it. They make it now. That Jack, you know, they charging it and what that more else like a moonshine is different, and bourbon, something like that. You know, I mean, you know, you got to age that to get that. To make it that, and you don't do it all out. You can do it all out of corn, but most of it you boil it and dip and kind of drain to make a bourbon, you know. And but I be like moonshine, cause hey, you make moonshine today and sell 15 minutes, you get it made, put money in your pocket. You don't want to do that. Hey, you can take it home and make your different things out of it. You can cook your brown sugar or white sugar. I like white sugar better. Put you some white sugar in a pan and stir it up like you would gravy. But you better be fast at it, because when they get that pan hot, make sure it ain't nothing in that pan, nothing at all in that pan. And have somebody there with you where they can hold a hand when you pour the sugar in, where you can start stirring it, because that heat will melt that sugar. And then that sugar will burn. It will turn it real brown looking. And then when you take it off of the eye, it's going to be harder than a brick. It'll be harder than a brick.
Did moonshine just start as an industry after Prohibition started? No. It was already a standard industry that happened in most of these states. And here's how it worked. You lived in a small town, And to go to the next small town would take you a week to do. It was a major project. So most of the time people stayed in the area they lived because there wasn't transportation the same way. People didn't have money, didn't use money. You did barter and trade. So you lived in that community and everybody had their own place, and so many people had gardens. Now people grew lots of veggies and stuff, but people didn't do that because they, oh, I'm going to get this and take it down there and sell it. That wasn't what people did. People had gardens because they needed food. So you had a garden so you could grow stuff that could keep you sustained for the winter and the next season. Well, one of the things you did a lot of was corn. Well, you know, people weren't as sophisticated or as smart about things as they were years ago either. So they didn't really know, say, about storing things. For example, with corn, now we got big silos and you put all your corn in a silo and they've got fans and they've got stirrers and that keeps the mold out, and they make the silos in such a way that it's harder for the vermin to get in there. Back in the day, that wasn't the case. You grew your food, and if that meant part of it was your corn, well then you always grew a surplus. You'd grow more than you needed. So what did you do with that extra? You didn't really sell it to other people because they were like you. You didn't have money, they didn't have money. But almost every small little village had a general store. Almost every little small village, you know, had a little tack or a farrier. You know, think of all those standard things that you'd see in most small towns. One of the other things they often had was a mill, a little place where you could take your grain and have it ground, so then you can use that to make yourself a meal. Well, when you had your farm and you grew your corn, you often grew way more than you could ever use for yourself. So you took that surplus grain and you took it to the mill and you sold it to them. They'd give you a little money, or they'd give you something in return. Or they, what I mean by return, maybe you brought in a bunch of surplus, or you brought in all of it and said, here, I need so much for me ground up so that I can sustain my family, and now take the rest of that and give me something else for it. Or, for me giving you part of my corn, you grind up my corn for me for free and give it to me. So there was this sort of barter and trade thing going on more than it was about money. Now, what do you think that grist mill did with all that ground up corn? They couldn't possibly sell it all because people didn't buy it. But they would see to it that that would go to moonshiners. Moonshiners would come in and buy that because that's what they would use to set their bins, that ground up corn, and make moonshine. So there was this nice economy, this sustainable thing that went on. You know, people who had their farms, they raised their food, they took the excess grain to the mill would grind it up, you'd get some of it, and the rest of the grist mill would sell or trade. Again, barter or trade. Hey, I'll give you this ground corn if you give me a little of corn squeezins when you're done. That's kind of how it was done. And suddenly when Prohibition came in, that was just like taking the economy and just tearing it up into little pieces, because suddenly you said it's illegal to make whiskey. So that tamped that down. That meant the grist mill said, I don't want to buy that anymore because I can't do anything with it. I can't, it's illegal. And what happened to these counties? They just got poorer and poorer and poorer because everyone was affected. It wasn't just the moonshiners, everyone was affected because everybody suffered by that limitation. That's really how it was.
Does the government have a right to be able to tell you whether you should or shouldn't make moonshine, or is there a moral
Yeah, the government did, yeah. They won all that tax money, see, off that moonshine. But I'm gonna tell you something. Politics, that's what you asked me, politics. If more moonshine went out in politics for votes back years ago, people would want $100 a gallon to pass out for a vote. They say, hey, I give you a pint of liquor or a quart of liquor, you vote for so and so. Even the government or whoever, I mean, it would be other people like us, the government, they was in on it too. Any way to get in there to be a government, some kind of politics, a judge or whatever, hey, they didn't shy moonshine. They would do anything to get that vote.
So they give moonshine?
Well, I'd give moonshine to people that, that I know went to the people like that. You know, I ain't knocking it. Hell, ain't nothing wrong with a good drink of moonshine, you know. But,
let's say we wouldn't pay no taxes, and that's the reason they wanted us to pay it. And I've had some blowed up to the revenue, some steels and mash and everything. I had about mile away crow flies over here. Me and my buddy, we had a 4-barrel outfit set up. We had 24 barrels set up. And revenuers found it. And they went in there and they blowed everything there. They put dynamite in it. I mean, they was sugar sacks, barrel rings, and top of trees. I mean, they really blowed her up.
Moonshine!
But now, if revenuers found it, you didn't use it no more. I mean, that they blowed up back there. The biggest piece of tin was about that, piece of copper was about that long and about that wide. I mean, it just blowed all to pieces. And they was sugar sacks and barrel rings and top of trees a whole lot taller than these. Ricky was always more out in the open than I was. I never did get caught making. I got caught making twice. I got caught hauling it twice. Somebody said, "You outsmarted them." I said, "No, I didn't outsmart them. It was just my lucky day."
Woo! Well, I'll tell you, I don't even know. My uncle.
Oh, yeah.
Especially to where there's some that, I found one deer hunting up here on the river, up on the ridge up there, and they had the barrels buried. And what surprised me, how they got the water up there, to carry the water up there. I was a young man, I couldn't have carried the water.
It's like Ricky was on the talk show with somebody, you know who it was, and they said, no, he went to the doctor. Yeah, that's what it was. The doctor says, "What kind of work did you do all your life?" He said, "What are we talking about?" He said, "Your back is in terrible shape, your spine." And he told me, he said, "Well," said, "I guess about the roughest thing I've ever done is I carried a lot of," what did you say, a lot of sacks that had 50 and 100 pounds in some of them, 50 and part of them being 100 and, no. He said, "What was in them sacks?" He said, "Sugar."
Now you're talking about depression days, and they didn't have no money. You know, didn't nobody have no money. Wasn't no such thing as money. And you know, when you take 5 pounds of corn and make $50 worth of liquor out of it, well, had to do something. Had to eat.
You always worrying about getting caught. If you're doing anything unreasonable, you always got it on your mind. You could get caught, you know. And making moonshine was a pretty big thing there about getting caught. And you could make, well, if you could get by, I'd say 6 to 8 months out in the wood, most of the time you'd overdone your limit. Because most of the time you wouldn't get by that long. It would be somebody out prowling around in the wood and find your steel, turn it up to the wall, or maybe the wall even be out looking for it and find it, you know. So, if you got by 6 to 8 months out in the wood, you done pretty good. You might well have you another steel made up, ready to go. Cause you gonna get caught or tore down, one or the other, you know.